Hi everyone, I am Shannon and today I'll be sharing about the inequality of labor income. When we hear about income inequality, probably we'll be thinking about starving children in one part of the world, while in the other, parents are providing children with nutritious food. This difference in ability to afford things is closely related to the idea of income inequality and what causes it. So, what is income inequality? Income inequality is how unevenly income is distributed throughout a population, and this can be measured through a Gini coefficient index, which takes values from 0 to 1. The greater the disparity of income, the closer the Gini coefficient would be to 1. Then we might ask, why does inequality exist? Before that, we need to know how income is determined so that we can understand why income inequality exists. Income is based on the concept of marginal productivity of output and the demand and supply of the job market. In the job market, wages as an individual is dependent on the demand and supply of skills. When the demand of skills required for the job matches the supply of the respective skills, this gives rise to an equilibrium point, which is also known as the wage level. The supply of skills depend on the state of education. The state of education refers to whether people have the necessary skills and knowledge that can increase output per man hour so that efficiency and productivity can be improved. Education is something that we are all familiar with since it is believed to be an important factor when we talk about reducing the negative impact of poverty as well as helping those less privileged in society. Having higher levels of education can help people get higher paying jobs since they have the necessary skill sets that firms are looking for and are willing to pay a higher wage for. While the link between higher pay and education seems obvious, many other factors such as the quality of education, the cost, the access, as well as societal norms affect the level of education of individuals across different geographical areas. And these factors are usually sometimes difficult to change, but its effects are just as important. The quality of education can be affected by number one, the type of programs. Educational structures focusing more on manufacturing skills or more on critical thinking and knowledge-intensive skills, as well as are there any available supporting facilities for students. Next is cost, especially the op cost of education. Opportunity cost comes into play when one has to make a decision that involves a trade-offs between two or more options. In this case, the opportunity cost of studying is working, and one would have to consider if he or she would be better off studying or working. Cost of education could also mean how affordable it is for ordinary citizens like you and I. Are we able to afford it? For access, are there any policies or laws that may be enforced a certain level of education standard? And societal, are there any inequalities, for instance, gender inequalities, like girls are not getting the chance to study? There could also be societal norms like the emphasis on certain industries in the countries, for instance, more emphasis placed on tourism sector. The state of technology also affects the demand of the job market. It focuses on the pace of technology and the rate at which technology is implemented in order for production to take place. If a country is focusing more on the engineering industry, but does not have the necessary machinery to support their production, even with very good and high level of skills from workers, productions will still be limited. Now, we'll look at the links between state of education and technology. If increase in the state of education is less than the increase in technology, demand and supply will not be in equilibrium, and people won't be able to find jobs, causing the incomes of these people to be lower than those who are more skilled and more able to secure these jobs. Then we might ask, is there then a way to solve inequality? The most common solution is the minimum wage model. However, in many cases, there's difficulty in measuring marginal productivity, especially for jobs that doesn't have a fixed or measurable outputs. These jobs where outputs are not easily determined may end up giving workers a higher than expected or lower than expected pay. Even with the minimum wage, Those in higher positions tend to be self-interested and want to pay themselves more. The minimum wage model also creates winners and losers. What do we mean by that? Let's first take a look at the minimum wage model. When the minimum wage increases from the dotted line at W1 to the red line at NMW, since demand of labor is only at Q2, demand for labor between Q2 and Q3 is no longer needed. Those that are employed from Q equals 0 to Q2 get a higher pay, while those unemployed now becomes Q2 to Q3. So what can be done? Some countries have implemented tax reforms, and this is done based on the needs of the countries. For instance, some countries going for progressive tax instead of confiscatory tax. So it really depends on the needs of and the state of the country. Next, economies also need to ensure that technological advancements are being made steadily. This needs to be in conjunction with the training of the workforce, so that skills of workers are relevant to the state of technology. I hope that this short sharing has helped you to understand more about the issues of inequality of labor income. Thank you.